What's going on YouTube? Tim Plague here, and today we are going to be doing a video for our Blindspot Season 2 Episode 2 review and recap. So, last episode, first episode of this season, we find out a few things. So we found out that Shepard is actually Jane's adopted mother. We found out that her real name was Alice Kruger, and that her parents were anti-apartheid activists and were killed by the African government when she was a child, and that she was put into some special school where she was trained to be a soldier for the African government. However, that fell apart, and her adopted brother, Roman, were rescued by Shepard. So we also see the return of Jane to the team, and we see all of the tensions there. Because, you know, Jane did lie to them all, even though it was to protect them. She still did lie, and obviously that's not something they're going to be able to forgive immediately. So, getting into the second episode, it starts off, Jane is having a flashback. She's actually remembering the photo from the end of the first episode, showing her unconscious in an army uniform in Afghanistan. And she's remembering how she was on some mission, looked like she was there to assassinate someone, and her entire team was were wiped out by two different explosions. And it shows that she's actually recounting this to Weller and Nas, and she's letting them know that Shepard and Roman took her to a memorial of those soldiers who died there. And we find out that Jane was actually part of Orion, and Orion basically used those explosions to wipe out the team, to tie up loose ends. Basically, they're trying to get Jane back on board. So they also tell her that there's another tattoo that she needs to solve that day, and it's one of a cathedral, it looked like, on her, I believe it's her lower abdomen or torso area. And so they figure out that basically there are some the DEA office in New York, basically they're putting weapons back on the street by selling them to different gangs, the cartel. And basically now they have to put a stop to that because there's going to be an attack, which is why it is important that this be solved immediately. So basically we have Reed. He's going to go visit an old friend of his from football camp. Basically from the episode at the school shooting last season, we found out that his coach basically was molesting young boys at the football camp, and this friend of his was one of the victims. So Reed basically was trying to get him to come forward so that the DA could prosecute. However, he's not a credible witness. For some time he was, you know, unemployed and on drugs. So the DA, of course, tells Reed that he can't go through with this, and it's sad because this is after Reed, you know, got him hoping that things would be good. Basically, after that, we have Jane. Actually, first, Weller was having a therapy session with Borden, and obviously Weller's gone through a lot. He found out that his dad indeed did kill Taylor Shaw after he let him in his life, thinking that Jane was Taylor Shaw. And Borden's telling him that he needs to confront his guilt and his anger, because obviously he can't confront his father anymore due to the fact that him being dead. Weller had been keeping a box with the remainder of his belongings, and he can't bring himself to throw it out. So after that, after some basic information is given. Kurt basically tells Zapata that he can't stand being in the same room as Jane. He doesn't trust her due to everything that happened. And of course, Jane is standing right behind them when this is happening because she was there to deliver some message that Patterson had found some information because she identified a DEA agent that was believed to be behind the sales of the weapons. So they go, while they're driving, they're on their way to go and confront her. And while they're on the way, another thing that happened in this episode was an amazing thing where every time some information seemed too difficult for the team to find, Nas was able to make a phone call and get this information. So that was just an underlying source of tension in the episode, particularly between her and Patterson. So anyway, on the way to go confront this DEA agent who they believe is the one selling the weapons, Jane confronts in Nas how she hates the bitterness she feels from the team, and obviously with things that have happened, her being tortured for 3 months and thinking that the team gave her away willingly to the CIA, she's not feeling too cooperative. And then of course finding out that Shepard is her adopted mother, Roman's her brother, she's very confused. And she's mentioning how the only thing that has been happening with the solving of the tattoos has been conspiracies being covered up through the government. So why should she trust the government when they're behind so many conspiracies? And, James mentioning how Nas doesn't understand how it feels to be looked at with such distrust and such disdain. And Nas, of course, has to remind her she's a Middle Eastern woman who's been trying to get to the top of the National Security Agency, so of course she knows. So basically, they confront this agent. Her name is Valentine, and she's about to be assassinated by some cartel members. So a gunfight ensues. At one point during the gunfight, it's clear that everyone's trying to keep an eye on Jane because they don't trust her. And while this is being voiced, there's a cartel member about to shoot Reed in the back. Jane, of course, shoots and kills him to save Reed. And, of course, Valentine kills the last cartel agent, and they arrest her. As they're talking to her, we find out that she's being set up by her mentor. And so this is what's going on with that. And at this time, we also see Jane being in the seat talking to Borton as well, and she's telling him her to confide in Weller, which of course Jane doesn't see as a good idea or something that's actually going to go over well, seeing to the fact that her and Weller are not on good terms. Weller doesn't trust her, and so why does Jane want to try and bond over something like this with him? So they set up a sting operation and to capture her mentor. So the team, they go in, and Weller has Valentine wait outside. Of course, Zapata wants Jane to wait outside because she doesn't trust her. But Weller, of course, says Jane's going to be with him inside. And while they're all in there, Valentine sees her mentor. She doesn't wait for backup, and she ends up getting shot through her stomach or her abdomen area. And so, of course, they have to get her some help. So while they're having a group meeting of the current situation. This is when everything kind of comes to a head in the episode. Patterson is upset with Knobs because she has all of this information that she's able to get, and she makes a joke about her having a magic phone that, you know, has all of these answers. Of course, Zapata, while they're arguing, she's staring daggers at Jane. Jane says, "You have anything to say to me?" Of course, Zapata goes off and says how, you know, doesn't trust her being there. She doesn't feel comfortable being out in the field. To which Jane defends herself, saying, "Hey, I saved Reed out there. If it weren't for me, he'd be dead." To which Reed then says, "Well, if it weren't for you, Mayfair will be alive." So Weller has to shut everybody up, get them on the same page, and then after that, the group kind of breaks up, and Reed tells Zapata about his working on a case and how it's not going anywhere, and how he doesn't know how to tell his former friend about it, to which she tells him to just tell the truth. So Jane then has a conversation with Nas, says she doesn't think she could be a triple agent anymore. She wants out. And of course, when Jane walked in, Nas was listening on some headphones, and she tells Jane that she was going over some old case notes. She says that she always takes her notes by voice, so she's just listening back. But after Jane mentions that she wants out, Nas tells her, of course, that this isn't a voluntary thing. You know, Jane doesn't get her freedom unless, you know, she cooperates. You know, Tom Carter was interested in her because of Ryan. He knew about it, and, you know, that's the only way, you know, the CIA is looking for Jane. So she tells her that she can trust her, even though she doesn't like her. Jane leaves, and we find out, we can hear the audio, and she's actually listening to Jane's therapy session with Borden. So, obviously, you know, she's not being 100% honest, but doesn't mean, of course, that she's the mole. So, she has a talk with Weller, and, you know, mentions that he hates her, to which he said he doesn't hate her, he just doesn't know who she is anymore, which Jane replies, that makes two of us. During this time in the episode, Roman, Jane's adopted brother, he's increasingly concerned about her and wants to shadow her. And even though, you know, it doesn't work out well for people who shadow Jane, they end up dead, he still wants to shadow her, of course. Shepard doesn't want him to, saying that she can take care of herself. Gets to the point where he actually beats up some two other members of Sandstorm in order to, you know, escape, because they're blocking his escape. So Shepard basically slaps him, tells him to go to his room, basically. And as they're having a talk, they find out that someone spotted Cade. So that could potentially cause some issues for Jane. Now, eventually they find out where this cell is going. Obviously, they're sure it's going to be an attack on New York because of the range of the missiles. And of course, it was going on that day. So they find out what the cartel are, and the mentor of the DA agent, the mentor of Valentine. And so they get there, and we see how well the team works together. They're able to stop the cartel members, and Jane is able to divert the missile, because they're trying to blow up a plane. Patterson informs them while they're in the field that this plane is carrying over, I believe it was like a dozen government officials and law enforcement agents. And so they're able to divert the missile into the river, blows up safely, and they get rid of all of the, or they capture the cartel members. So basically, earlier in the episode, Borden approaches Patterson and gives her a copy of Oregon Trail. However, it's the old disc, which, computers don't have. It was just his attempt at, being flirtatious, but then asks her out to dinner. So obviously they're playing on that episode, or from season 1, she had those hallucinations of her ex-boyfriend David after he died, who was trying to get her to date Borden, and then the episode when they were protecting the girl at his cabin, we saw the, chemistry between the two of them. So they're just building on that. Obviously, I wish they would do more with Borden's character. I like the character, but he's just a therapist, so they don't have much for him to do. But that could change, especially if they start doing the therapy sessions with Jane. Since there's more on her mind now, that could be causing her some distress. Reed confronts his friend to let him know what happened. His friend had already been informed by the DA, but then he says, basically implies that Reed was also molested by this coach, but he had repressed it. So, yeah, Reed's not in a good mental spot either, because it looks like these memories are kind of coming back. Then we have Zapata and Jane in the locker room, and she sees Jane in pain, of course, from the gunshot that she had gave Jane in the first episode of this season, and she walks over and gives her some ointment, says it'll help but it's going to sting, and apologizes sort of for shooting her, to which Jane says, well, I asked for it. She says you did, and then leaves. So obviously nothing's going to get resolved immediately or soon, but they're working toward it because they are able to see that they do work well together. But obviously there's going to be some trust issues on both sides. So one of the last big things is Weller, he finally gets rid of the box containing the last of his father's things, and as soon as this happens, what is her name? Starts with an A. Allison. Forgot what form of law enforcement she was in, but he was dating her, and it was like a triangle square thing, triangle kind of, between her, Jane, and Weller. And she announces that she's 3 months pregnant with his baby. So they have a little talk, and she's saying that she's going to have the baby. She doesn't want to, ruin his life or anything, but, basically it's an interesting potential character development for Weller, considering the fact that he just is trying to deal with the things that he found out about his father. So, yeah, that's a pretty big thing that's going down there. And so, yeah, pretty much that's the episode. One other thing that happens. Jane actually is drugged by Roman. So I don't know if they confronted Kate, and you're possibly going to try to figure out whether or not Jane has been lying. But yeah, that's the last thing that happens in the episode. And yeah, so pretty good episode. They're going on a steady path, of course, and not every episode is going to be as high level, but I mean, I didn't have any issues with this one. Looking forward to the next to see what's going to happen, whether or not they're going to build on this thing with Reed, how it's going to go with Weller, and just to see what possibly Zapata is going to be dealing with this season as well, and just how the team's going to come to some common ground. So that's my thoughts on the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And I know this is a late video due to the fact I was sick. Trying to get caught up before anything big happens. Currently Monday, September 26th. So I have my designated survivor video to do after this one and get up there. And then of course Gotham, I have to do that later on this evening, and I'll be back caught up on track. And you know, hopefully no more sickness will come up that'll cause me to fall behind. After this week, things are really going to pick up, and it was starting Monday. Monday, I believe, is of course Gotham. Next Monday is Gotham and Conviction. I don't know if they're going to keep Supergirl on Monday, but I know that the 4th, which is that Tuesday, Flash starts back up, then Arrow. Legends of Tomorrow is on the 6th, which is that Thursday. So, you know, there will be multiple shows on multiple nights. So, you know, just trying to get caught up, or keep caught up with it, and hopefully, you know, it'll be a lot easier now. So, hope you guys liked the video. If you did like the video, you can click the thumbs up. It'll be right here, and it'll really help me out a lot. I really appreciate it. Also, feel free to leave any comments below, and I'll get back to them. And if you have any suggestions, anything like that, definitely please subscribe to the channel. That'll help me out even more. But until next time, guys, 10 Flag out. Peace. See you guys later.